11 years. 11 years of bloodshed, of seeing young men butchered by the enemy, or worse, left maimed and scarred with dull, lifeless eyes. 11 years of raising my sword in your name, leading charge after charge towards the enemy line, knowing at any moment my luck could finally run out. 11 years of surviving on the meager, stale rations that would arrive at the front a month late. 11 years of taking a cuirass off the corpse of one of my friends, because mine has a hole in the front and there's no chance replacement gear will be provided by the corrupt quartermasters anytime soon. And for what? What is the hard-earned result of 11 years of slaughter? Perhaps the incompetent sycophants you call generals neglected to tell you. I'm sure they fed you the usual nonsense about a show of force, overwhelming dominance in the region, etc. Let me tell you the truth of what sacrifice of tens of thousands of this kingdom's young has really achieved. We now control 8 square miles more territory than we did 11 years ago. Don't you dare attempt to speak. I spent far too much of my life hearing your pronouncements read out to me. If anyone calls me the executor of their glorious vision ever again, I'll gut them where they stand. And don't bother shouting for your guards either. I called in a favor from my former comrades who are distracting your so-called honor guard with old war stories, and enough rum to fill a lake. I'll be thoroughly out of commission for the rest of the night. You have no idea who I am, do you? I must appear as just another fool in armor, bound to serve you for life. I should expect nothing more. But the generals told me you had taken a personal interest in me. With every award I received for my courage or skill, I was told how proud you were, and that I would be guaranteed a prestigious posting when the war was over. I have no need for these medals. Looking at them only brings me shame. A reminder of the years I've wasted carrying out the orders of a tyrant. I had originally planned on scattering them in the mire where my comrades fell, but the opportunity to lay them at your feet felt more poetic. It is such an honor to stand here, in front of the penumbral throne. When I was trudging through mud, soaked with the rain and the blood of my fellow soldiers, it always brought me comfort to imagine you safely ensconced in your opulent palace, being fed grapes by your courtiers. In truth, I always assumed the stories about this room were mere legends. Surely the king wasn't so arrogant to keep his throne always cloaked in darkness. Does it make you feel powerful, appearing as a silhouette, looming above those who come here to beg for aid? Or is this all to hide the shame on your face when confronted with the consequences of your lust for conquest? Even with you hidden in the shadow, I can tell that you're shocked. You've been frozen since I burst through the doors. I'd love to think it's because you're finally coming to terms with your transgressions, but you're probably just surprised to be spoken to this informally. How long has it been since anyone didn't begin a conversation with your esteemed majesty, followed by a bow deep enough for their nose to nearly touch the floor? I've had 11 years for this resentment to fester, to grow from a slight sense of bitterness into a burning, white-hot hatred. Every time I watched one of my comrades fall in battle, heard the screams coming from the field surgeon's tent, wiped the blood from my eyes before the next swing of my sword, the fire inside me smoldered a little brighter. I believed I would die before I was ever granted the opportunity to face you, whether I was struck down by the blade of a Draveni soldier or the rampant disease in the camps. I was resigned to my fate, ready to follow the path of the soldiers who had been slaughtered before me. But then you had to twist the knife one last time. A peace treaty after 11 years of war? You suddenly saw the value of a respite from conflict? Not after the first year when we had lost more ground than we gained. Not after the Battle of Torrens Hill in the third year where 5 entire battalions were wiped out in less than a day. Not even after the food supply was disrupted in the 7th year and 300 men starved to death in their tents. But now? Tell me, what changed your mind? Was the cost of the war cutting into your wine fund? Did you wish to use the gold budgeted for weapons and armor on expensive gifts for your harem? I know your reasoning must have nothing to do with the lives you destroyed, the widows and orphans left helpless in the wake of your ambition. Greed is the only thing that moves you. I was deep in enemy territory when the news was finally relayed to us. We were ordered to hold out in a tiny encampment on some miserable windswept cliff, surrounded by hordes of Draveni soldiers. Every day I watched as our supplies slowly dwindled, the reinforcements we were promised never arriving. Your generals didn't even have the courtesy to send out a scout to inform us about the truce. We only found out when one of the Draveni sergeants approached the camp entrance for Pale. Despite having to defend against ceaseless attacks from our forces for over a decade, they showed us more grace than we deserved, allowing us to exit their lands peacefully. I deserted long before we returned to the camps, forging my own path through that blasted wasteland. I was done taking orders from men who didn't deserve the authority handed to them. I had only one more mission left to accomplish. To meet the man who put me through unimaginable suffering for his own greed, and let him feel the steel of the sword that carried out his will. No one is coming to save you. Your guards are too inebriated to stand, let alone defend you. There is only you and me. Let it not be said I am without mercy. I will grant you the same opportunity you afford so many of my fallen comrades. You can die on your feet, instead of lounging on the throne you do not deserve. For once in your miserable, drawn-out existence, show the courage you demanded from all your soldiers and rise. I promise not to make your execution any more prolonged than it has to be. I don't understand. I wasn't expecting you to look so young. Shouldn't you have a beard? You always had a beard in the pamphlets. This is some form of deception. Clearly you're not part of the honor guard, based on how badly you're shaking. Tell me, where is the king before I take my rage out on you instead? The royal crypt? An odd place to visit at this time of night, but an appropriate place for him to meet his end. Show me the way so I can finally... What do you mean he's dead? No. I deserve to be the one to extinguish his life. At least tell me he died painfully. Peacefully, in his sleep? Of course. He escaped the consequences of his actions, even to the end. The powerful always somehow avoid justice. Who are you? Why do you sit in his throne? I see. The former prince, now the newly crowned king. Perhaps the long journey through the wilderness to this place wasn't a waste after all. I can still exact my revenge on another member of your accursed dynasty. You'll just become an extension of your father's regime if allowed to live, after all. I have no interest in anything you have to say to defend yourself. Kneel. You hesitate. Surely you know how to kneel. You must have seen plenty of petitioners prostrate themselves in front of your father. Drop to your knees like a humble peasant. Enough. Standing there quaking with fear won't save you. I'll do it myself. I've wielded this blade so many times in your father's name. One last swing and its work is complete. You have something to say. Of course you do. Although you don't deserve to. I will allow you to speak, but be warned. If this is a long, meandering speech defending your father's actions, I may cut you off. In a very literal sense. If I understood your frantic babbling, you're saying you were the one who proposed the truce. That makes more sense than your father doing so, considering his unyielding desire for war. Why would you be so eager to defy his wishes as soon as you ascended the throne? I don't believe you did this with noble intentions. You're only expressing a love of peace because of the blade pressing against your throat. You'd say anything to secure your survival. There must be some way you profit from this truce, some underhanded plot in motion. Crying won't spare your life. Calm yourself. The king of this realm weeping like a baby does make for an interesting sight, but I have no empathy towards you. You wish for me to look at the wall? Ha! Could you make your attempt to distract me any more obvious? As soon as I turn, you'll attempt to scramble away or stab me with some hidden blade on your person. You insist there's some evidence of your desire for peace on the wall? Very well. If I'm going to turn away from you, I'm holding on to you by your hair. Stop whimpering. I thought you wanted my attention on whatever's so important, not the sounds usually made by a lost puppy. This is what you were so desperate for me to see. The banner with the kingdom's emblem. I hate to disappoint you, but I saw this flying from the camp flagpoles every day. The battle axe in the center and the 6 crowns surrounding it. There are 5 crowns on this banner. I understand what it means. Each crown represents a territory of the kingdom, with the 6th and most recently added crown representing the portion of Dreven your father declared as his own. If one crown is now removed from the emblem, either one of the kingdom's territories has revolted, or you're ceding your claim on Dreven's lands. This is a complete rejection of your father's regime. To put an end to the pretense that our kingdom is somehow owed a significant amount of Dreven's territories shows I may have underestimated you. I'll let go of your hair. Take a seat on the steps of the throne and breathe a moment. I still have more questions, but your life is no longer under threat. Why are you so different from your father? He must have raised you to continue his legacy of endless conquest. Forging your own path so quickly after receiving the crown is unusual. You saw the war firsthand? That's impossible. You must have been no more than a small child when... I remember you. The 2nd year of the war, after the summer offensive failed. The king traveled to our camp. Clearly he thought the few inspiring speeches would somehow make up for the lack of equipment and poor strategy. I was assigned to hold back the crowds of soldiers to clear a path for the royal party. I remember the awestruck hush that fell over the exhausted troops as he swept into view, and how it fueled the already burning resentment inside me. How could my fellow soldiers have any respect for the man who'd sent them off to die? And there, trailing behind the king, looking fearfully up at the throngs of big men in armor, was a frightened little boy. Gods, you can't have been older than 11. You looked around the camp like you could see the brutality and squalor behind the thin veneer of glory, just like me. I remember other things from that day, you know. How your father never spared a glance in your direction, and how you flinched when he suddenly swung his arms out at the climax of his speech. Even living in this palace, you may have still suffered. I should thank you for the truce. I suppose it's the only reason I'm not lying in a pile of corpses deep in enemy territory. The relief on my squad's face when they learned they were going home. It quelled the hateful fire inside of me, if only for a moment. You don't have to look so scared of me anymore. I promise I'm not going to hurt you. I spent so long tramping through the wilderness to get here. I didn't understand how much has changed. What happens now? I don't know. I spent so long following the orders given to me, obeying without question. Then came the truce, and I was consumed by my thirst for vengeance. In truth, I never expected to survive the night. After I'd struck down the king, I assumed my own death would follow swiftly afterwards. I could return to the village I grew up in, but I left there when I was around your age. I can't bear to think how much will have changed, or see the losses inflicted by the war. I am one of the few lucky enough to return from the battlefield after all. Perhaps it would be best for both of us if you found a guard that's still somehow sober and had me executed. When I first began my training, the grizzled old knight instructing us told me there was no way to truly return from war. Even if your body is back home, your mind never leaves the battlefield. To be released from the memories that torment me would be a blessing. Ha! I should have expected you to refuse. Your commitment to pacifism never wavers. Even for the man who threatened your life moments ago. Forgive me if I'm not exactly grateful. One thing doesn't quite make sense to me. Why are you sitting alone in the throne room when I arrived? Shouldn't you be surrounded by sycophantic courtiers vying for your affection? You're supposed to be having a meeting with the major noble houses. Well, unless they're invisible, I don't think they're here. What? To openly defy you in this manner and spurn your invitation. It's tantamount to insurrection. I can't imagine your father would have stood for this kind of treatment. What'd you do to cause such a display of disdain? I see. I never considered how forcing through the truce could imperil your standing with the nobility. Considering the rampant corruption on the front and all the lords and barons handed important postings as generals, they must have been profiting immensely from this endless war. Now that there's a pause in the conflict, their ill-gotten gains are under threat. My path is clear now. I cannot, will not, allow anything to threaten this peace. No more young men will be sacrificed in the name of this kingdom. I'll do whatever it takes to ensure this truce holds. Which means I'm not leaving. I can't risk the nobility escalating their campaign against you. You will appoint me as the head of your honor guard immediately. Don't look so surprised. We both know I'm more than qualified for the position. Unlike most of the sons of minor nobles who are handed the job of protecting you, I have actually seen real battle. No one in the kingdom would be more skilled at keeping you safe. I'm not going to let you out of my sight even for a moment. I will accompany you to every meeting, every feast. I'll watch over you as you sleep, only a step away from you. From now on, you are my only concern. Allow me to help you to your feet, Your Majesty. I'm sure the intensity of tonight's events has exhausted you. Your hair's still a mess from from earlier. Hold still. Much more regal. Now you're not cloaked in shadow, I can see how handsome you are. You must have inherited your looks from your late mother. Let's find your royal quarters, Your Majesty. You need to sleep. Under my watchful eye, of course. I hope you have a comfortable chair for me to guard you from. If not, I may need to lie beside you. Only to have the best possible vantage point on you, of course. I never thought I would bear my sword in the name of your family again, but you may prove to be worthy.